Just a little bit of shooting today with the 1917 and hopefully the Browning too. Mostly just forming brass and doing some measurements with this 1917. We'll be putting them on at 100 yards down there. Just see how it comes out. I've ran quite a few through this, but I'm still just kind of measuring brass and figuring out where I want to size things. So let's put 5 downrange. Actually, I got 6 there. I'll show you the target when I'm done. All 6 of them in there. There's what we're running, just some H380. We'll see how they shoot. Brass looks pretty good. T3. Oh. 5. That's a 308. There it is. There's number 6. Okay, we got them all. Oh, we'll go down and take a look at what we got. Okay, so that was 6 real quick shots out of that old 1917. That's the one that I scrubbed the bejesus out of the barrel with maroon Scotch Brite. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where's the 6th one? I thought I did 6. Is there 2 in one of those holes? Must be. I think there's 2 over here, I think. So Yeah, I think that one's going to be a shooter. That was a 6 o'clock hold with the elevator up, so I have to look at what the yardage is on that. That's probably like, I don't know what it's labeled as on there, nor do I know how what the velocity is like on these. It's H380, so I'll take a look at what the velocity might be, but I don't think there's going to be any problems with that rifle. I think it's time to load some more ammo and try it out at 200 yards, and we might have a winner. I was really concerned about that barrel when I first started working on it, so I'm very pleased that it's shooting like that. And that's with the large diameter rear peep on that 1917, just bone stock military sights. So these ones here are probably me. This is probably where it's trying to shoot. So all right, well, let's pull out one of the other rifles and shoot that for a bit. But I'm pretty happy with that. We'll measure that brass and see how it looks. I changed the headspace dimension on the brass a little bit for that batch, just to try to figure out where it was gonna land with the minimum amount of sizing. So we'll take a further look at that sizing and get them dialed in. So here's another look at the 1917 I was just shooting. This one's pretty much standard issue. I gather that it was probably a CMP rifle. It's got good markings on the stock and whatnot, most of the parts being Eddystone. It's got pretty good markings and whatnot on it. It does not show any World War II refurbishment marks. I'm guessing that this one was surplused after the First War, Parkerized, maybe CMP, I don't know, but it sure looks that way to me. But I grabbed this one used and just a little bit of cleanup work on it. Like I said, I was a little concerned about the bore, but it's coming around, I think. I've got, let's see, I've got like 40, 46, I've got about 50 rounds through it, I guess, and it's starting to come around. That was, like I mentioned, downrange, that was H380, and I had sized these pieces of brass with a small base die, and about 15 thousandths clearance between the shell holder and the bottom of the die. This die seems to have a short shoulder in it. I might send it back to RCBS. I think it's wrong. In looking at some measurements, if you run this one right down to the shell holder, it makes the brass quite short. So not real typical of an RCBS sizing die. So I ran it off the shell holder a fair amount, just enough to touch the shoulder a little bit. This brass was towards the short end of where I wanted it for this rifle, so I think the next batch I'm going to size just a little bit longer. We'll see how these look on the headspace comparator after I take care of it. This is just some old kick around brass. And you can see I'm quite low pressure, just pushing the primer out just a tiny bit, and with the brass being just a little bit short, you get that proud primer presentation there. So we'll get it dialed in, but I think it's going to shoot once I get her going, and let's move on to a different rifle. Well, now I'd like to put a few rounds through this 1891 Argentine. This is one of several that I have. This is a 1891 long rifle, 7.65 Argentine. I grabbed this one very affordably at a gun show. Oh, I don't know, it must have been a couple of years ago, and I just hadn't ever done anything with it. Again, this one had a pretty dirty bore. It cleaned up pretty nicely. I've shot it some. I don't know exactly how many shots I've fired, but brought it back out again. I think I only shot it at 50 yards before, so I don't know where it's gonna print. We'll just run it with the battle sight setting. And this is just a real light load of H380. Do you see a theme here? At a gun show a couple years ago, I bought a whole bunch of old H380, like 5 1-pound cans that I paid next to nothing for. I'm starting to chew up a little bit of it just to get it gone because it's getting old. But this is fat guy brass. This brass came from a fat guy at one of the gun shows. He was selling out a bunch of stuff, and so I took it, and it was already primed, so I just very carefully neck sized it. These were also bullets that came from the same guy, and the tips were really mangled on them, so I ran them through a bullet pointing die and cleaned up the point in order to make them shootable. So this is all salvage components other than the powder. So it's been shooting pretty well though, so I think I'll just go ahead and put a few on paper. Once again, we'll have it down there at 100 yards. You can see the target down there, and we'll visit that when I'm done. That one's a little tight. That one must be sized a little long or something. Try that one again in a minute. Doesn't look particularly long. This one or this one? We'll try them both. Yep, that's a tight one. There's something up with that one. Not real sure. We'll have to look at that later. These bullets were a little bit different from each other. That's why I've got them kind of batched out like this. I'm not sure it's going to make a lot of difference where they fly. But, let's just go ahead and run a few more and we'll just see where they go. I don't expect it to group incredibly good. That's 4. That's 5. Let's go down and take a look at how that 5 printed. The wind is starting to come up a little bit here. Well, okay, I'm pleased with that. Once again, this was a 6 o'clock hold, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up here, so that's not too bad, given that that's just throw together ammo. I think I'll run a few more out of it just because I'd like to shoot it and see how we do. I think I'll just keep the same point of aim. I'll still stay right down here on the 6 o'clock hold, and hopefully we'll land a few more up in that batch. You know, maybe we'll try to see how this one runs out of the magazine. This bullet's a little bit pointy, so it might be a problem, but we'll give it a try. These are single stack in these Argentines. There's 3. There's 4. And there's 5. Nice little single stack magazine there. Seemed to go in okay. That one that was tight, it did chamber a minute ago. It just the angle that I was at, it felt like it was stiffer than it really was. When I stood up and held it, it went right in. Yeah, that was a little bit of a failure. Oh, the woes of filming when you don't bring a tripod. That should be better. Sorry for the tumble. Okay, we're already chambered up there. And like I said, that tight one did chamber fine. When I held the rifle and put it in there with a little bit more authority, it went in just fine. I already shot that one. And now we'll do these 5 out of the magazine. Was a little bit tight too. Not bad. Not bad at all. I think I'll go ahead and just run the rest of these. Five plus one. Seems to eject just fine, and I'm not even running it hard. Boy, that can't see it from there probably, but the firing pin really hits the primer hard. Can see a little bit of mirage, it's warming it up. I think there's one more. Yep, feeds out of the magazine just fine. That's good. All right. Oh, still got one more round. Okay, pick up the brass. Chucked a couple of them. Here they are. Like I say, it really crushes the primer. So this is a pretty decent old 1891 Argentine. The numbers match on it, so that's always nice. And typical scrubbed crest on this one. Decent bluing. It's not too shabby. The color's pretty. Wood is halfway decent. It's got some marks here and there on it. Does still have some of the, many of them. This cartouche over here on this side is sanded out of them, but this one still has that intact, so that's kind of nice. But it's a pretty decent old rifle. Say I like 1891 Argentines. I have several. I don't even know, in the long rifles like this one, I have a few of them, and then I've got a couple that have been sporterized, and then I've got a couple of the carbines. I've got a cavalry carbine and an engineer carbine, so they're a lot of fun, and I think this one's going to shoot okay. Right now it is missing its front sling swivel loop. I've got one at home to replace that with that I grabbed, and we'll get that put on there and she'll be back to normal. And this one does not have a cleaning rod in it either. So anyway, it's a pretty decent old rifle. This one was very cost effective, so I couldn't say no. Added it to the family. Okay, so we're up there in the upper left quadrant with all of those shots, so I'm happy with that, with just throw together ammo using those old components, getting the brass fire formed the first time and all that. So we'll fine tune it the next time around, and it looks like I could probably stand to have a little bit of a front sight adjustment, but the sights on the Argentine are definitely a bit more challenging than the sights on the 1917, so it does not surprise me the way that one's printing at all. I think it's going to shoot fine, but like I said, that was just a throw together load of old H380 and old secondhand bullets and brass. So I think if I pay some attention to putting something together for it, maybe start with a load that works in some of my other Argentines and see how it goes, I think that one might be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and take these targets down and put up a couple of fresh ones, and I think I'm going to shoot my Browning, the 4570. That may be in a different video though. So thanks everybody for watching.